What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Big Five Pod, episode number 94. I'm, of course, your co-host, Kyle Morello. Next to me, we've got the one and only Jake Copestick. Cope, how's it going?
We're good. We're good, Kyle. I got a nice interview with Ashley Howard coming in here. So,
I was just gonna say,
yeah, don't want to spoil it, but really good interview with Coach. Really appreciate his time. Covered a whole bunch of different stuff. He's a North Philly guy, and he gave us so much good Big Five stuff too. That's like exactly why, I want to have the pod for like people like that that can be like, hey, like the Big Five, like how important it was to him, like in his basketball journey growing up. Like it was a really, really good interview. Appreciate Coach having on, coming on, and yeah, looking forward. Villanova, Kyle. By the way, got not even 2 weeks. They got a charity exhibition against Robert Morris. Like a
crazy.
really good opportunity for a sicko like myself to go watch some hoops.
Yeah, listen, I mean, you and me both. We're right up against it here. We're very, very excited. But yeah, like you said, the interview with Ashley Howard was awesome. I'm not going to spoil it, but he did talk a lot about the Big Five and some of the stops he's been at growing up in the Philadelphia area and in Philly itself. And of course, the season that will be for Villanova basketball. So he's very excited for that. We're very excited for that. I will say we did change locations since the last time because we'd record that on a separate day. So if we look a little different or our backgrounds, mine really in particular, Cope's the same one every single time. And it's a really great one. It's the Big Five Pod logo. Come on now. So if we look, whatever, that is why. So on separate days. So just as a precursor, just in case you guys might notice that. But before we get into that, we do have Cope's quick hitters. We do a lot of things to catch up on from the last, I don't know, Cope, about a month or so toward the end of the summer here into early fall. So why don't you get us started? I know you're going to be talking a lot, so if you need to take a sip of water, get yourself ready, get that basketball going, because we've got Cope's quick hitters coming at you right now. Cope, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, so I had to again. Ball might be getting a little dusty, man. I'm gonna have to get a towel for this thing. Like you have a towel for a bowling ball to kind of like wipe it
Yeah,
off, polish it. We might need to take a water break in the middle of the quick hitters here. We might need to, we might
I
need to
can
take a
riff.
30-second timeout here because we got a lot going on. So we'll
Yeah.
start some coaching, some administration news. Kyle, we're not even going to talk about a Big Five school here, but we have one last Woj bomb.
Oh,
Now, former ESPN NBA insider senior NBA insider Adrian Wojnarowski retired from the sports reporting and the journalism game. He is going to be the general manager at his alma mater for his St. Bonaventure Bonnies men's
give
basketball
it up
team.
for Woj.
Yes, give it up for Woj. It can't really be stated like just what he's bringing to St. Bonaventure. I mean, he's dealt with a lot of agents. He's dealt with every person in the sports world, and now he's a guy that can leverage his network and his connections to bring in money to pay players, sponsorship opportunities, professional development to set these guys up for when the ball stops bouncing. There is so much that he's going to bring to the table, and you can look at it and be like, that's a really big get for St. Bonaventure, which it is, but we're not going to know the impact of this until I'd say a couple years down the line because he's very adamant. So was Mark Schmidt. Like they want to compete with the best here. That's their goal every year. But with Woj, they think they can, as they said in the press conference, they can stand shoulder to shoulder with the best programs in the country. So really big get for St. Bonaventure, this general manager position. We actually talked to Ash Howard about and Baker Dunley at Villanova, how it's becoming a position. How about not only for basketball programs, but football programs as well? This is really becoming a staple in power conference, college football, and basketball schools. So big get for St. Bonaventure with Woes coming aboard of all people. How about that was out of left field? How about
Yeah.
that?
Oof.
Next, we're going to move on. We're going to talk some Villanova. So Corey Fisher, who is a student athlete development assistant at Villanova last year, he was just hired as an assistant coach at Wagner. So if we want to go into a resume for Mr. Fisher, two-time All-Big East player, member of Villanova's 2009 Final Four team, which was Jay Wright's first. And that position he was in, student athlete development assistant, that was a position. It's been around for Nova for quite some time, designed to get former players into the coaching business. Mike Nardi, now an assistant coach at Villanova, he previously served in this role. Chris Jenkins, he previously served in this role, and now he's going to work for Donald Copeland, who just took Wagner, who was all types of beat up. Could only practice with 6, 7 guys some days, but he just took him to the NCAA tournament. Corey Fisher now headed up there. Congrats to him. His first coaching job as an assistant. Also, talking about Villanova. So their director of basketball operations, Joey Flannery, he just left to be the associate head coach at Babson College, where he played from 2013 to 2017. This guy put up some numbers, Kyle. The ninth all-time leading scorer in Division III history when
Wow.
Joey Flannery was up at Babson. So
Joey
he's now going to be
Buckets.
the associate head coach at his alma mater, and he'll be replaced by Rob DePersia, who was Kyle Neptune's video coordinator at his lone season at Fordham. And the past 2 seasons under Kyle Neptune at Villanova has been the assistant director of basketball operations. So just kind of the Dobo role, like it's the circle of life almost as the Dobo role. You do it, you move on to a coaching job, no matter the level. And, I'm sure we'll be talking about Rob DePersia getting a coaching job pretty soon when the time comes. Another news piece here from LaSalle, some unfortunate news. So Safet Kastrat, their kind of like assistant coach, recruiting coordinator, seemed like he wore a bunch of different hats with LaSalle, but very, very highly regarded as a young guy in the industry. He left LaSalle to attend to a personal family matter. So we want to wish Safet the best in that. Said he's still going to be pursuing coaching opportunities in the future, but he's leaving LaSalle at this time. So I'd say pretty big loss for LaSalle. I mean, like I said, a young guy in the industry, very, very highly regarded. International, domestic recruiting is really big in all of these. So wish him the best, but I'm sure Kyle, he'll be landing on his feet somewhere in the near future. He really seems to be a rising star. I want to talk, Kyle. So Jack Jumper helped us get Justin Scott and Rasheer Fleming on, both from St. Joe's. Let's give Jack some love because he was able to hook us up with that. Been really, really nice to us. He just got a
Absolutely.
promotion to Associate Athletic Director for External Relations after 20 years in athletic communications at St. Joe's, being the primary contact for men's basketball. So congrats to Jack. Thank you for all you've done for us. And shout out to
Absolutely.
him. Nice, well-earned promotion for him. Kyle, I want to talk one thing before we get into scheduling that could affect the schedule. Villanova's Eric Dixon suspended 1 game for participating in the Portsmouth Invitational. So AJ Hogard, who's actually a PA guy, I believe he's a Downingtown guy who played at Michigan State, now at Vanderbilt, he was also suspended 1 game for participating at Portsmouth. And it's been a thing in the past. This not as many games. I think Damian Baugh from TCU, his last year in school, I think he had a 3 or a 5
Yeah,
game
I
suspension.
think going into the year 3 was like the standard. So that's why they scheduled so many games before the St. Joe's game. So that way he'd be able to play. But now only the Lafayette game.
Right, exactly. And that's really the big story here. He suspended a game. Yeah, it sucks. Villanova fans, they will gladly take that because he's going to be able to play at Hagan Arena against St. Joe's in Big Five pod play. So let's move on to some scheduling news. Talked earlier, Kyle, in our intro. Villanova, they're going to play Robert Morris in a charity exhibition. I really liked that the NCAA did this, giving teams up to 2 of these, as long as all the proceeds go to charity. Live stream it, still charge for admission and stuff like that. Everybody wins. It's for a really good cause. You get to promote your program potentially on national television. Maybe play a really good opponent here. As we see with Villanova, Memphis and North Carolina playing tonight. Last night, Rhode Island and UConn played tomorrow. I'm going to make sure I'm up for that, Kyle. Rutgers and St. John's in a
Oh,
charity
yeah.
exhibition. So love that they're doing this. And it's going to be live streamed Sunday, October 27th. Villanova and Robert Morris at Finneran Pavilion. We're going to move on to another one. I think this is really cool. St. Joe's going to host Bucknell the day before on Saturday, October 26th. So John Griffin III, of course, who was Billy Lang's associate head coach during his time at St. Joe's, who's a Bucknell alum who just took that job. He's going into his 2nd season there. He'll be returning to Hawk Hill, as well as, how about this, Matt Lang, Billy's son, is also on the team as well. So cool little storyline there. All proceeds are going to benefit St. Joseph's Kinney Center for Autism Education and Support. So really good game for a really good cause. Looking forward to go watching some hoops. Hopefully I can get to that one. And again, for a really good cause. Really happy the NCAA decided to do this. So finally, Kyle, we have schedules for every Big Five team. And we have
About
conference
time.
schedules as well. Thank God. AAC, we were waiting on you. Man, they took forever.
They did.
So a couple of just quick notes of Villanova. The Big East released their conference schedule. They're going to open up Big East play at home versus Seton Hall on Tuesday, December 17th. Of course, we want to talk about the big games. Where are they going to play Creighton, Marquette, Providence, Xavier? Where are they going to UConn? Where are they going to play these teams? They're going to go to Creighton Saturday, December 21st, and then they're going to take a break that will end when they play at Butler on New Year's Day. Four Wells Fargo Center games, Kyle: Creighton, Marquette, Providence, Xavier, and the two-time defending national champs UConn Huskies. They're coming to the Finn on Wednesday, January 8th. Place should be rocking. Would love to try and get to that game.
A
But
rare appearance at the Finn, might I add.
yeah, they're usually a team that, they played. We were at the Marquette game last year when they played it at the Finn. Xavier has been a team that's played at the Finn, so interesting, I guess. I'm sure UConn would rather play at the NBA arena than go play on campus, but here we are. They are coming to the Finn, which should be a great game and a great atmosphere. Temple was the last team we were waiting on a non-conference schedule, Kyle. Finally, we got it. They're going to open up non-conference play. They're going to play Sacred Heart, the Pioneers, on Monday, November 4th at the Liacouras Center to kick off their season. They're going to play away for the start of a home-and-home series. So they have two home-and-homes. They're going to be playing on the road for both of them this year. First is at Boston College on Friday, November 15th, and then at Hofstra on Sunday, December 15th. So nice little scheduling tidbit here because they're going to get an ACC team in Boston College, and Speedy Claxton's pride are feisty, Kyle. I'm
They
really a
are.
fan of this one.
They gave
Although
Drexel a lot of trouble last year.
absolutely. And even though they're a CAA program, I think this is a really good game for them, and I'm glad they scheduled this. And I'm sure Hofstra's excited that a team of in a conference that Temple's in would want to come to them and play them. So kudos to everybody. Got to throw this in, Kyle. They're going to close non-conference play on Sunday, December 29th at home versus George Halkovich III's, as your dad says, the UB Bulls.
UB Bulls.
They'll
Listen,
get them
big.
at home.
That's a big game in the Morello family because Temple alumni, and mom and dad, Buffalo alumni. So that's going to be a very big game for the family. Cope, you're going to have to go cover that one because I'm going as a fan with the family. Uh, we went to the Temple Buffalo football game in 2019 up at UB. Of course, we were at the one in 2018 when Tyree Jackson kind of took that one over. But the one in 2019 when Temple was on the verge of being ranked, it went up almost two scores. They think they had a fumble recovery for a touchdown on return. Ended up losing. So that was the only other instance in which Temple and UB, besides the 2018 version that was at the link, this is going to be a very fun one. So, and I also know that, you're close with my dad as well, and he always talks about the UB Bulls. He's been high on them for, since he went there and graduated. So I didn't mean to interrupt, but I had to throw that tidbit in there for the people who were not familiar. There are some family ties with the UB and Temple games, so that will be a fun one.
Absolutely. And if you're asking me to go cover a college basketball game, Kyle, you don't have to twist my arm. I will
No,
definitely. You don't have to ask me to do that stuff for sure. And then one last note, they're going to play a non-D1 opponent again. They're going to host Holy Family on December 10th. Temple did play Bloomsburg at home last year, so another non-D1 thrown in here for the Owls. We'll get into the CAA now. Drexel, they're going to open CAA play at Campbell on Thursday, January 2nd in the conference opener. Their home opener, next Saturday, the following Saturday, January 11th, they're going to host Towson, who's projected to be at the top of the conference again under Pat Scarry. Delaware, Hampton, Monmouth, Towson, William and Mary are who Drexel is going to be playing twice and going to be playing home and home. And then, of course, we got to mention, well, when are they going to play Charleston? When are they going to play UNC Wilmington? They played them both away last year, and it was tough because I think that was the same road trip. I think that was like a Friday, Sunday road trip in two of the hardest places to play, maybe the two hardest places to play in the entire CAA. They're going to get them both at home this year, Kyle, and they're both going to be on Saturday. So hopefully I can definitely make these.
oh, yeah.
UNC Wilmington comes to the deck on Saturday, February 8th, and Charleston on Saturday, February 2nd, Kyle, right on the eve of March. Can't wait. Can't wait. Two big opponents, 2 Saturdays. Dak should be rocking for Drexel for 2 big opponents to come. Let's talk about some player news here. This kind of just came out of nowhere. Drexel, to fill their last scholarship spot, they've added Pacific transfer William Garcia Adsden. He's a rising sophomore from Stockholm, Sweden. Drexel, not afraid to add some international flair. They're going to add another international player to the roster. Listed at 6'8", 210 on Pacific's team page. He played in 20 games last year for a not-so-good Pacific team that was 6-26 overall, over 16 in WCC play, and was on the losing end of that famous, what was it, like 59-9 beat down at the half to Pepperdine?
It was one of the most egregious basketball scores I've ever seen in my life,
Yeah.
especially in a postseason play. I mean, I know they didn't win a game in the league, but come on now,
Yeah.
come on
But
now.
regardless, William Garcia adds they're going to fill that last spot. And I want to shout out at Dragons Cast on Twitter because I didn't see like a press release about this. He must have just been looking at the roster one day and found it and put it out. So shout out Dragons Cast for that, being cognizant of what's going on with the Drexel roster. Let's talk some commits now. St. Joseph's. They got a commitment from 2025 guard Austin Williford from St. Anne's Belfield High School in Charlottesville, Virginia. How about this? The son of a coach. Just like Xavier Brown being the stepson of Justin Scott, he is the son of Virginia Associate Head Coach Jason Williford. So, son of a coach of a power conference team. Had offers from Liberty, Charlotte, Albany, Towson, Vermont, Florida Gulf Coast, Atlantic 10 rival George Washington, Murray State, and Boston U. And he is the second commit for St. Joe's in the 2025 class, joining Owen Verna. One more commit, Kyle. How about those Temple Owls?
How about those
2024
Temples?
combo guard Cam Miles commits to Temple from IMG Academy, chose Adam Fisher and the Owls over Marshall and AAC foe ECU. Two guys in the class for next year, Cam Miles, Cam Wallace from the Westtown School. They're picking up steam, Kyle, and that's only two guys next year. There certainly could be a third or a fourth coming for Adam Fisher and company, so they continue to kill it on the recruiting trail, grabbing a four-star guard, Cam Miles, from IMG.
How about it?
Lastly, Kyle, one piece of player news here. We talked to Ian about this. Ed Holland III going to step away from the University of Pennsylvania men's basketball team to focus on academics. He appeared in 44 games over the last 3 years for the Quakers, made 8 starts last year, averaging 5.8 points per game. It's tough. It's kind of the same situation in a way as Max Martz. Max Martz was kind of an injury retirement, but look, like the academics are very rigorous at these Ivy League schools. Shocking.
Shocking.
But look, Ed Holland, you're going to graduate with a Penn degree. You are going to be just fine either way. But he will be stepping away from the team. The second such, late move in the offseason, a la Max Martz from a season ago. And that wraps us up, Kyle. Let's talk to Ashley Howard.
Let's talk to Ashley Howard. You said it best. So, without further ado, we will be bringing you the interview with Ashley Howard, Villanova assistant coach, excuse me, starting right now. All right, everybody. As promised, we have Ashley Howard here, who, of course, is the Villanova assistant head coach, former LaSalle head coach, second stint with Villanova program. Coach, 24 days till tip-off versus Lafayette. How you feeling?
You know what, man? I'm cautiously optimistic about this group. It's that time of year where you're practicing every day against each other, and it's just sort of kind of like you're building. We got a lot of new pieces, but our guys are picking things up quickly, and I'm excited. I'm excited to get the season started, man. We're undefeated right now. Everybody's undefeated.
Everybody's undefeated. That's the beautiful thing about October, man. Everybody's
Yeah,
going into the season 0-0.
no doubt.
I know Cope wanted to ask you a few questions off the bat, so I'm going to turn it over to him first. And Cope, start us off.
Coach, I obviously will talk about your new pieces and the team that you have coming up soon here, but I want to kick it back a little over a year ago. I want to talk about when you got back to Villanova and you were hired back on as a coach and a little bit before that. So when you left LaSalle, you started in the NIL space. You were doing the Friends of Nova NIL that, of course, Randy Foy runs now. Also doing some color commentary. I saw you on Instagram doing some color commentary for the Delaware Blue Coats, so there was definitely no shortage of basketball in your life. But I want to ask you, during that year period, did you want to get back into coaching the whole time? Like, was it nice to have a year off? Did you ever think about maybe not going back to, were you really itching to get back when you were hired back at Villanova?
Um, I wanted to take a year off, and the main reason was I wanted to be able to take a look at the industry, from the outside and not be in it, right? Because sometimes when you're in it, you can only see the vantage point that you're in, the program that you're in. You don't get the opportunity to get out and explore other, programs and teams. And, so, prior to taking the position with the NIL collective, like my plan was to really just kind of go out watch as much ball as I could, go to practices and sit down with coaches and talk basketball and try to expand my own personal wealth of basketball knowledge. Because you don't get to do that when you're in it, right? When you're in it, you're coaching, you're competing, you're recruiting. So I wanted to have a year where I didn't necessarily have all of those things restricting me. So, that was my mindset in that year. Now, once the season got started and like my normal routine and from November to April is always to be competing, to be preparing and be on the floor with the players and in the locker room, on the bus. I missed that. I did. And as a coach, those are the things you miss the most, right? So I was itching to get back, man. Once we got in mid-season, I was like, man, like, what am I doing right now? But it was cool, man. It was a good year. I think I got an adequate amount of just appreciation for the opportunity to do what I love to do, right? And then, to still be a part of the Villanova program during a time where we were transitioning, and then understanding how significant NIL was going to be, just in college basketball moving forward. I thought that was good for me to still be able to work in that capacity where you're meeting with donors, you're educating people on the significance of NIL and all of the things that were coming ahead, just in the NIL and the transfer portal space.
So my next question, you actually laid it out perfectly for me. So I want your vantage point on NIL being a part of Villanova's program, but also doing the Friends of Nova NIL as well. And a follow-up to that is you guys were one of the first schools to hire a general manager for basketball and hiring Baker Dunley. You guys were one of the first schools to jump on that and add that position that, of course, many other programs are doing. So now that you've seen NIL from, in a program, outside of a program, but also for Baker's sense, like how beneficial is it to have a guy like Baker or the staff in this new era of college basketball?
So for us, like having Baker, who is just like a staple in Villanova basketball in our program, a guy who was a player, a guy who was, our associate head coach for years, someone who was a head coach and then came back to the program. It was just another value add, and we felt like, just his experience, his perspective in general was something that would be beneficial for us as we're moving forward, building our program. Bake has relationships that go way beyond our program. His brother is an NBA general manager. His other brother is an NBA agent. So now Bake has a different perspective in terms of like management and also understanding how to gather intel on players that are transferring, because now most of the players in the transfer portal, they have representation, right? So understanding, just kind of the different vantage points that players could be coming from, what our value add is, and having somebody in that role that understands our culture and is going to help us stay true to that without compromising who we are in this new landscape has been great having Bake on the staff.
Let's talk transfer portal now. And reason I wanted to was looking at at different people from Nova to interview, but I definitely wanted to get you on because I think there's a really interesting storyline with here and your old point guard Jhamir Brickus now coming over from LaSalle.
Yep.
So, kind of walk me through that process. He puts his name in the portal. You're somebody that's coached him before. You recruited him out of high school. You already have a pre-existing relationship with him, but now you have to almost sell him on a new place for him to come to, and a different place that you originally recruited him to. So although you guys are familiar with each other, like what kind of is that sales pitch like to Jhamir to come over from LaSalle and join you guys, as far as like what the program's about, how he could succeed in the program you're in? Like what is that kind of sales pitch like for you to get Jhamir to come there?
Well, the reality is when we recruit, is not as much of a sales pitch as it is a presentation of what Villanova is, and then trying to figure out if what the individual prospect is looking for matches what we're looking for, right? So in Jig's case, I was very, very cautious of making sure that Coach Neptune wanted Jig, understood what Jig could bring to the table. So it wasn't just me trying to recruit my former player, right? Um, and I waited a while, and then Coach Knapp was like, "Yo, what's up with Brickus, man? What's he doing?" I'm like, "All right, well, I was waiting for you to kind of ask me that. I think he'd be a great fit, right?" And then I think for Jig, it was an opportunity for him to stay close to home, to to have an opportunity to still have a similar role that he had at LaSalle, where he's going to have the ball in his hands. He's going to play a lot of minutes, just at a higher level, and with like a really strong supporting cast, right? So he was excited about that. His family was happy that we were able to keep him home. And, I think because he played for me at LaSalle, there's some synergy there because he knows a lot of our plays, a lot of our concepts, and the way we look at the game. And he's developed his game in a similar way that some of our guys have, right? So for both parties, I thought it was a great partnership that made a lot of sense at the time.
So I got two more before we wrap up on the transfer portal. We get to your current team. So a follow up to that, of course, like, well, now that you're going to hand the keys to Jhamir Brickus, how what can he add to this offense that maybe they didn't have last year, and how can he help this team improve? A guy that's been in college a lot of years, he's played a lot of ball. How can he propel you guys and get to where you want to go this year?
He's a lead guard that really thrives in transition, making the guys around him better. He's more of a pass first guy. We didn't necessarily have a pass first guy on our roster last year. We were kind of grooming different guys and teaching them the position. Jig is a natural point guard. He's a pass first guy. You can put him in pick and roll, and now like he's going to open things up for everybody else, right? He can score the ball, so you got to respect that. But now he's also a guy that lives in the paint and has great vision, right? So, other guys like to play with him, and now we just have to get him to, turn it up another level on the defensive end, and be smart, taking care of the ball. For us, it's a possession game. So, we need you to, display that creativity. We need you to be that floor general, but we need you to take care of the ball. We need you to be a leader, and we need you to compete on the defensive end. That's what we need from them.
hmm Absolutely, absolutely. So one more before I kick you over to Kyle. We talk about the current team you have going on this year. So Tyler Perkins, he had 22 and 6 against you guys when Penn upset Villanova at the Palestra. I was at the game, great atmosphere, really tightly contested, like really good Big Five, good city game.
Don't remind me, Jake. Don't remind me about Tyler Perkins. He never lets an opportunity go by where he talks about that.
Well, I guess my question is to you then, when he puts his name in the portal, how quickly did, everyone on staff be like, hey, like we should probably get that guy in here?
No, he like when Tyler went in the portal, we we all agreed like he's a talented young player. And one of the things that we wanted to do last year was we didn't want to just bring in guys that were transfers that had 1 year of eligibility. We wanted to, this time around bring in some guys that had multiple years. Tyler is transferring now as a sophomore with 3 years of eligibility. So now he's going to have the opportunity to really grow and develop in our program. When he went in the portal, his AAU coaches actually called us and told us that he was interested in us and wanted to see if there was some synergy there, which there was. And because we had opportunity to play against him and he kicked our butt, like we really we saw the best of him, right? So we knew what his potential was, how good of a player he could be, and and he's as good as we thought he is. He's a great leader. He's a hard worker. Those are the things that you don't know about players just by watching them on Synergy or competing against them. He's a Villanova basketball player, and we're really lucky to have him.
Very, very lucky indeed. And speaking of Tyler Perkins, we're going to turn it over to the current roster for this year, get a little discussion about that. So obviously we can't talk about this year's version of Villanova Wildcats without talking about Eric Dixon, reigning Big Five Player of the Year. Um, he just encapsulates everything that Villanova basketball is. But now he's not going to be the only big man. You brought in Fresno State transfer Enoch to help man the middle. How will those two kind of coexist in the paint together this year? And can Eric now do things that maybe he couldn't do before when he was, the biggest player on the court for you guys?
So I think everybody saw that Eric started to expand his game way beyond being a low block back to the basket player. He's expanded his 3-point range. He's been working on his ball handling and decision making, which now gives us the versatility to be able to play him at the 4 and the 5 spot. So obviously, there's going to be a lot of opportunity for Enoch and Eric to play together, with Eric pretty much playing on the perimeter like a guard for us. And I think that's something that Eric has earned. He's worked his tail off over the last few years to develop those skills so that we can put him in that position, right? So we're excited to be able to utilize him that way. I think it'll make him way harder to deal with, just because you're not just locking in on him at one specific position or, one specific role. And Enoch is a legit big guy, man. Like he is a great communicator on the floor. He protects the rim. He finishes around the basket. He's a great screener, which is extremely valuable for us. So, we're excited to see how the combination of Eric and Enoch, how it all plays out with those two guys this season.
Yeah, it's going to be something awesome to look forward to. And, kind of in terms of the offense you mentioned with Eric Dixon, going out toward the 3-point line, expanding his game a little bit. You bring in Jhamir Brickus, like you mentioned earlier. We're going to get to Uga Poplar in a second, but you bring in Uga Poplar, someone like him. Tyler Perkins, obviously, as well. The offense is going to look different than it did last year. How do all these different pieces kind of fit together in terms of spreading the floor, getting the paint available for either Eric or Enoch or whoever else is down there? Like, how do all these new pieces kind of fit together to change the offense to what it was a year ago?
Well, I think you have guys that have more specific roles and skill sets this year. All right. So obviously Enoch is a, true big guy, screener, roller, finisher around the basket. Eric gives you that versatile 4-man that can play on the perimeter and post up. Jig is your pure point guard. Wooga is a lights out shooter, big time athlete. Jordan Longino is like a Swiss Army knife guard that can do a little bit of everything. That can handle the ball, that can score, that can post up, that can drive, use pick and roll. Tyler Perkins the same way. So I feel like it's a healthy mix of guys that are being our core nucleus that complement each other, right? I felt like at times last year we had a lot of guys that were the same, right? So when you have a lot of guys that are the same, like there's no, there's a positive because we had a lot of versatility and size defensively. We were a top 15 defensive team in the country last year. But last year I felt like we had a hard time creating easy shots for each other, right? So now with Jig, at the point I feel like it should be easier for us to generate easier looks offensively. And now you have Eric in a different role where he's at the 4. I think it could all come together where offensively we have a little bit more synergy.
Definitely, definitely. And you mentioned the defense, which was phenomenal last year. Kept you guys in a lot of games, won you guys a lot of games. How can you continue that this season with this group? Obviously, you mentioned a lot of the new players coming in here, but how can you kind of transfer that over to this upcoming season?
Well, I think offense it comes and goes. Defense is everlasting. Like that's the lifeblood of our program. When you talk about what makes you a Villanova basketball player is playing hard, playing together, defending and rebounding, right? So like that is at the core who we want to be. All of our players know that. They know that, without bringing a certain mindset to the game that involves defending and rebounding at a high level and being connected with your teammates, then you probably won't play, right? And if you're playing and you're not doing that, we just know that's not how we do things. And as a coaching staff, we have to make sure that we uphold that standard, right? So, defense is going to be, the foundation of what we are. I do believe that we have some pieces that we've added this year that'll make us a really good defensive team. But obviously, you gotta get to the games and you gotta figure out like what's the best way for us to become that, right? It doesn't have to be the same strategy, but the mindset has to be the same.
Absolutely. And speaking of get to the games, you guys brought in an absolute gamer in Wilga Poplar coming over from Miami, and the ACC obviously made a Final Four a couple years ago with them. Scoring wise, he can definitely score with the best of them. He was in the ACC, like I mentioned. Now he comes over to the Big East, which, Cope and I's opinion, best league in basketball, maybe that in the Big 12. How good can he be scoring in this league this year?
I think Wooga is a natural scorer. He has a ton of ability. He's a gym rat, so he's constantly in the gym working on his game. I think the biggest thing with Wooga is that he's not a guy that's going to go out there and force things, right? So, I know, for him, like picking and choosing his spots, but we want him to be aggressive. We want him to have the mentality that, like, he's one of the best players on the floor all the time. And if he can do that, I think that he'll be a significant threat for us. Eric is going to need, somebody else out there that can, carry some of the load for us offensively. We're happy to have Wooga, but I also think that our guys' ability to play off of each other is going to make things easy for everybody, right? So, like I said, Wooga isn't the type of dude that's going to go out there and try to ISO ball and force shots. He's going to play within himself, right? And I think that's why he's been a good player because played on good teams and he's picked and choose his spots. So I think he'll do, the same thing with us.
Yeah, and he has experience playing with a lot of guards too, and Isaiah Wong, Nigel Pack down there in Miami. So he knows how to play without necessarily the ball with his hands. Definitely something to look forward to this year. Speaking of other point guards, though, we're going to get to a little bit of freshmen now. You did bring in Bulgarian national Alexander Gavaligov, along with some other freshmen that we'll get to in a little bit. I don't know if a lot of people know a ton about him coming over from Bulgaria. How good can he be, and how much will he impact this year, but also in the future as well?
But we really like Sash. We call him Sash. He has that Euro game where like he's extremely skilled. He can score the ball. He can shoot it. He has really good vision. For us, we needed to have more depth in our backcourt. And like I said, we wanted to bring in some young guys that can develop in our program. He's going to really benefit from competing against Jhamir Brickus every day in practice. He's already put on about 13 pounds of muscle since he's been with us. Like that's going to be one of his biggest points of emphasis with him this entire season is just getting bigger, getting stronger, and really committing yourself to putting on some weight. So I believe that as he continues to get stronger, the skill is there for sure. But in our level in the Big East, you have to be able to play with an element of physicality that most freshmen aren't necessarily ready to do from day one. So I think Sash will be able to provide us some minutes at times, but his best basketball is definitely going to be ahead of him.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you mentioned some other freshmen coming in too. You got three other freshmen coming in: Matthew Hodge, Josiah Mosley, Malcolm Thomas. You also have Alabama transfer Chris Parker coming in. We've talked about all the other guys in the rotation contributing this year. How do these guys in particular fit the Villanova mold, and how confident are you they're going to have an impact from day one?
So all four of our freshmen uh, that you just named, not including Sash, because I count Chris as a freshman because he is a redshirt freshman transfer. Like all four of those guys, we believe have a chance to be like unbelievable Villanova basketball players because they're versatile. They can defend multiple positions. They're all athletic. and they know how to play basketball, right? And they're all different. Like Chris Parker is like a 6'6" combo guard that can handle and pass and make plays. Matt Hodge is like a hybrid forward that can shoot the three, that has a really good IQ, is a good passer, and just has an unbelievable feel for the game. Malcolm Thomas is a unbelievable athlete that can guard multiple positions and play high energy, block shots, catch lob dunks. And then Josiah Mosley arguably could be the guy that could end up being our best defender on our team just because of his size, his athleticism, his physicality. He was Mr. Basketball in the state of Texas last year, and he's a guy that we're really excited about. Our freshmen are all promising guys that will have their moments this year to make an impact. But I'm tell you what, man, the future of our program looks bright with those guys because they're all Villanova basketball players.
Sounds like it, absolutely. And last one before we get into a little bit more fun stuff here. Your first stint at Villanova, obviously you guys very successful, two national championships. Guys made the tournament every year. Obviously now it's been a couple years since Villanova has been in the big dance. What do you guys need to do to get back there this year?
I think we need to like be a team that's really, really committed to the details. Because last year, there's so many individual plays that made an impact on individual games that one play here or there, you win a game that we lost. And we're in the NCAA tournament last year, right? Whether it's a loose ball, whether it's a defensive rotation, whether it's communicating a switch on a screen, like we have to be a team that really, really hones in on the details because we were this close to being an NCAA tournament team last year.
Yeah,
Now, because it's Villanova and we have the most passionate fan base in college basketball and we've had a great deal of success over the last decade. We have expectations that are great as we should. But the reality is, like the expectations have to be on us preparing and paying attention to detail. That's who we've always been. That's what we have to get back to. If we do those things, I believe we'll have a chance to be a Big East title contender in a postseason team.
absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Now we got some Big Five related questions for you because we are the Big Five pod. So we're gonna ask you some good ones here. So obviously, you coach LaSalle, you coach at Villanova now. You are also a Drexel alum, so you got three out of the Big Five, six Infinity Stones here. Former coach there as well. So, what are your thoughts on the Dragons joining the Big Five last year and being involved in this wonderful, wonderful league?
You know what, man? I think it was long overdue. There were years when Drexel was one of the best teams. There was one year where Drexel was the best team in the city. They beat Villanova, they beat Temple. They went and beat Syracuse in one season, right? And didn't get a chance to get recognized for that, right? There were times where we play these teams every year. You win a game versus Penn, you beat LaSalle, you beat Temple, but you don't get a chance to have your players be recognized as all Big Five. I coached a player, Damian Lee, at Drexel, who was the Colonial Athletic Association's Rookie of the Year. He didn't get an opportunity to be the Big Five Rookie of the Year. He's in the NBA right now, by the way, playing for the Phoenix Suns, right? So, like, this is a guy that could have been a first team all Big Five player, Big Five Hall of Famer. Sammy Givens, Franz Massenut, who's an assistant at Drexel now. These guys were great players at Drexel that I wish they had an opportunity to get the same respect as some of their counterparts that played at the other Big Five schools. And I think, there's no place in college basketball like Philadelphia, right? So to have six schools that have great traditions, that have expectations for winning, and probably the best sports town in the country, is unique. So like I'm proud that Drexel is a part of that. Um, I believe it's long overdue. I think Coach Spiker, since taking over, has done a great job of propelling the program to the point where people look at our program at Drexel and say like, yes, and they belong to be a part of this. So I'm happy for him. I'm happy for the school, and I think it's also a great thing for the Big Five.
Absolutely. And you know, part of the revamped Big Five was not only adding Drexel, but also the new format of the triple header at the Wells Fargo Center. I think, Cope, I think you can agree that last year was probably the most buzz that the Big Five had in quite some time. And I think this year's going to be even better. So, what are your thoughts on the new format of the Wells Fargo Center, the triple header? Not every team playing in a round robin like they had before, separating the pods and whatnot. What are your thoughts on that?
Honestly, kudos to all of the schools and for our corporate sponsors for creating this event. Like I felt like the Big Five needed something to spice it up and to kind of change it a little bit in this new landscape. I think you have to try to find different ways to market and brand the schools in the city and the Big Five. For all the schools and that are involved, it's got to be a selling point that we have this rivalry and this tradition that is unique that you can't get anywhere else. Now to add that with a triple header at Wells Fargo Center is awesome, right? I know at Villanova we get an opportunity to compete at Wells Fargo Center multiple times in a year, but for those other schools in the city, to have a chance to bring their fan bases down to Wells Fargo Center, compete in a triple header. It's like our new version of those old school Big Five triple headers that, the people of my parents' generation raved about at the Palestra, right? So I'm excited for it. Disappointed that we didn't show better last year in it, but that's the Big Five, man. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what makes it unique. That's what makes it special. In years past, I believe that that's what made Villanova really good. Is that we had to compete and bring it every single night. Like we didn't get nights off where we're playing teams that we're buying and we know we're going to win. Like you got to go at Penn and beat them at the Palestra in a packed house. You got to go play at St. Joe's this year at Hawk Hill. They have a great team this year, right? So like for us, like most teams aren't doing that, right? So like a game like that for us, it only prepares us for the Big East and makes us better when March comes around.
I agree with you 100%, Coach. And I want to, before I get into a couple more Big Five questions here, I want to ask you for your personal experience. Being a Drexel guy, haven't been at Villanova, haven't been at LaSalle, but also just being a Philadelphia guy in general and growing up here. When you were growing up and getting into basketball, like what was your Big Five experience? Like, did you grow up rooting for a team? Were you going to these games? Like, how did you grow up with the Big Five?
I was a Temple ball boy.
Hmm.
Really?
I was a Temple ball boy growing up. I grew up in North Philly. My grandfather and Coach Cheney were really good friends. And McGonigal Hall, Temple played in McGonigal Hall. They had like little cubbies under the basket. And I used to sit underneath the cubby with my towel, go out there, wipe the floor down. I would rebound for the guys before the games. So some of my best memories as a child were watching Big Five games in McGonigal Hall, right? Watching Temple when they were number one in the country versus Villanova with Doug West and Kenny Wilson and those guys. They had an unbelievable team at Villanova. Temple was number one in the country. Watching Lionel Simmons at LaSalle play against Temple when Lionel was the National Player of the Year in all of college basketball, right? So, and then like you grow up in Philly, and during my time when I was growing up in the '90s, like it was the thing to stay at home, right? So, every Big Five team had like a local Philadelphia legend playing for them, right? So, I grew up watching it and seeing guys that I watched when they were in high school go to the Big Five and play and compete at a really high level. So that's my perspective on what the Big Five is, right? Now, over the last 20 odd years, like the whole landscape of college basketball has changed. So I think it's fitting that the Big Five has changed to kind of mirror, the changes that have come just across the landscape, right? So, I'm a Philly guy at heart. I grew up on a Big Five, and I'm extremely blessed to have been able to be a part of it, for my entire life, both as a player and coach.
So when you talk about the history and like the great moments that you had growing up in the Big Five, now that we have a generation of players coming up here that, the Big Five's not as prevalent as it was, during your generation and in years past. When you bring guys in the program, and although you have some Philly guys on the team, you have Dixon, Brickus, Jordan Longino, all from the area. Perkins obviously played in the Big Five last year, but do you do anything to convey the importance and the history of the Big Five when you're going to play these games to the team?
Honestly, I think when we talk about Villanova and we talk about the Big Five, we talk about what I talked about earlier. Like you come to Villanova, there's no nights off. It's like you want to come to Villanova because you want to play for that team that everybody wants to beat. So there's no nights off when you put that Villanova uniform on. So that's something that you have to wear with pride, right? So for us, it's like, yo, we got to go through this gauntlet of the Big Five, where we had our moment where we were top dog for a long time, and you have to protect that all the time, every time you step in between those lines. And like I said, like over the years, I feel like that's made us a lot better because it does not give us a chance to relax and just say, okay, we won, this tournament in Maui, or we went to the Battle for Atlantis and won that, and then now you get to relax. And we saw that a little bit last year where we went and we won the Battle for Atlantis. Okay, yeah, that's good. All right, now you got to beat St. Joe's on Tuesday night. You know what I'm saying? And guess what? You think that North Carolina game was intense. Like, wait till you play that game, right? And that's what makes the Big Five special, right? So, for us to be a part of it is awesome. For me as a coach, I've experienced the greatest of the greatest, and then I come back, I experience the other side of it too, right? So I appreciate it, and what makes it special.
So I have one more for you in the Big Five before we get to some lighthearted stuff and get you out of here. So your first year at LaSalle, I was actually a freshman there. I did my freshman year of college, your first year there. And actually my first ever game when I was at the Palestra was when you guys were playing Villanova. I think they were ranked 23rd at the time.
Should have won that game.
You guys played him right down the wire. It was tough, but it was a Saturday game. It's televised. You have Jay Wright on the other sideline. You just come over from Villanova after winning those two games, and it was a really, really close game. The crowd was great. With all the storylines in that game, what was that moment like for you, a guy who grew up going to these games, watching games at the Palestra, that now, like, you're the head coach of a Big Five team. You're going up against your mentor, packed house, Palestra. What was that like for you?
Uh, I didn't think about it. I was just trying to win the game. Seriously. I was just, at that time, we we hadn't won a game yet. We were like 0-7. So I was dying to get a win, man. And I knew our team was just right there, right? And and realistically, going into that game, Villanova is nationally ranked. Um, you just want to go in there and you want to compete and you want it to be a great game, right? Where you go out there, you compete to the end. And I was so proud of my team after that game, just because I thought we competed, we played hard, um, and we had a chance. We were right there, and that's what I was proud of. The crowd was great. I do remember thinking during at some point during that game while it was going on, and it's obviously now like it's a game that's going back and forth. Like, wow, this is a Big Five. This is what makes the Big Five the Big Five. It's like a Big Five classic game, Saturday afternoon in the Palestra, heated, rivalry. So again, man, like God has not cheated me at all in terms of my basketball experience and some of the opportunities I've had, in the game of basketball and in the Philadelphia Big Five.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was a great like I was my first time at the Palestra and I was like, oh my God, this place is awesome. Crowd was rocking. And you guys played it. You played your tails off, that's for sure. I mean, definitely left it all on the floor that game. So we're gonna get into some more lighthearted stuff, some quick stuff. We'll get you on out of here. So Kyle, why don't you kick it off for us?
Absolutely. All right. So, Coach, there is an iconic clip of you after the Chris Jenkins shot to win it all in 2016. You were the first guy to hug Jay Wright, who, by the way, was just stone cold emotionless. Like, that's what we do. But you were the first guy to hug him. What did you say to him in that moment after you guys just won the national championship?
I forget what I said to him. Uh, I blacked out for a minute. I lost my mind.
I get it.
But it was something on the lines of, um, this is what we do. This is what we do. This is what we do. Because in that moment, all the pressure on the line, it was something that we revert back to every day in practice. We work on late game situations. We work on those situations. We had worked on that play, about 50 times throughout the course of the year. And you get in that moment, we just blew a 10-point lead. Um, our momentum could have just sort of kind of went in a complete opposite direction, but we stayed together and everybody, when Marcus Page made that double pump three, everybody clapped their hands and said attitude. And when we inbounded the ball, I noticed that Chris was wide open because they didn't have anybody guarding him on the inbound. So if you know the play, you're looking and you're saying like, yo, Chris is open. Chris is going to be open. So I'm watching it in slow motion the whole time. And, I love Chris, man. That's my guy. Like if that dude gets a wide open three, it's put it in the books. So when he got that ball and I saw the ball in his hands, I just stepped up on the post. I was like, yo, this is good. We out of here, right? And it went in and it was just like crazy. Now, personally, I think coach got caught in the moment, was just watching, and he was waiting once the confetti came down to see if they were going to put more time on the clock. But, I heard the buzzer go off, so I knew, yo, this is good, right? And coach was still standing there. I was anticipating that he was going to walk to shake hands, but he stayed. So then, everybody caught me sort of kind of walking past him and then having to walk back around. But it was an unbelievable moment. I get people from all over that I grew up with that were watching the game that replay that moment to me where they were at the time of the shot, watching me strut up and down the sidelines when the ball went through the basket. And it's just an unbelievable memory and, just so fortunate to be a part of it.
Yeah, yeah. And to follow up on that real quick before I turn it back over to Cope, we have to end the discussion of this right now because I'm sure, at least in Big Five Nation, Cope and I, but also Villanova Nation, is a debate between which was the better national championship team between 2016 and 2018. A lot of the same pieces, some different pieces. So, Coach, you were on the staff for both. Which team was better, 2016 or 2018?
Ooh. I'm gonna tell you what, the 2018 team had less margin for error because if anybody went down on that team, we were in trouble because we didn't have the depth. The 2016, that was the 2018 team didn't have the depth. The 2016 team, I mean, we were bringing McHale, Phil Booth off the bench, right? So we had plenty of depth on that team. But I think the difference in both of those teams were the 3-point shooting. And we had Amari Spellman at the five that was like a 40% 3-point shooter, right? So, if you look at both of the teams, like that team in 2018, I mean, we made the most threes in the history of college basketball for one year, the most threes in the history of college basketball in the NCAA tournament, right? The most threes made in an NCAA tournament game, right? So I think the difference was having Omari Spellman at the five, who was a legitimate 3-point shooter, right? So, I know it's not popular amongst our guys when we have this debate and we go back and forth, but I think that was the X factor, having Omari at the five. But I will say that if one of those guys goes down with a sprained ankle or something, I'm taking 2016 over 2018.
Fair enough. Fair
So
enough.
2016 to be clear.
2018 with,
2018 fully healthy, it sounds
with
like.
an asterisk. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
You got it. Got to ask you this, Coach. Jay Wright, obviously probably the best dressed coach in the history of college basketball. But if you had one game day fit that you think could rival anything that Jay Wright put out there? What's the best fit you could put on for the sidelines?
Oof. I mean, I have a couple nice suits myself, but Coach Wright blue pinstripe, man. That's hard. That's hard to top, man. I
Yeah.
mean, and he has the hair, man. Like I think the hair like makes it all come together. But um, he's the sensei, man, and I'm the humble student, man. I can't rival my master, the guy that taught me so much. Just about not just about dressing, but about coaching and life. And that's one of those battles I gotta turn down. I can't. I'm not going to compete with the master on that one.
Yeah, I
Okay.
can't blame you for that. Yeah. All right, coach. We're gonna paint a picture here. Assume it's a Saturday night, nationally televised Big East game. You guys are on the road. What are the two top hardest arenas to play in the Big East that you just dread going to?
Man. Um, so Creighton is always tough. Uh, Unbelievable crowd, but like they just don't miss at Creighton, man. It's like, you're playing those dudes, they're getting up and down, they play with unbelievable pace. It's a really tough place to play. Great atmosphere. Um, 18,000 sold out every night. Um, Tremendous atmosphere at Creighton. And I mean, and then obviously now UConn, right? I mean, playing there, like they have it rolling. They have a great team. Um, I would say those two places right now. But the thing about the Big East that is special, and this is why I believe the Big East is the best conference in college basketball. It's like I can say Creighton and UConn, but like there's nothing like going to Providence. There's nothing like playing at Xavier. There's nothing like playing in Hinkle Fieldhouse at Butler. There's nothing like playing at Marquette. Now we're talking about playing at Madison Square Garden versus St. John's and Rick Pitino. Like that atmosphere was electric last year when we played there. At Seton Hall. I mean, honestly, playing at Seton Hall may be at Seton Hall is number one. I don't like at Seton Hall, regardless of what the records are. It's like at Seton Hall is a bloodbath because they're a tough, nasty team, and their fans are just despicable. They're just yelling at you the whole game. They're right behind our bench. You walk up, their students are right in front of you going through the it's playing at Seton Hall is tough. And that's what makes the Big East unique, man. It's like there are no nights off. You never go into a empty arena. There's nowhere where you go and you play. And it's like, man, like, yo, we got to bring it today, guys. Like, we got to bring our own energy. Like, everywhere you go, like, the atmosphere is electric. All basketball schools where basketball is the main sport. So that's so hard to choose. But if I had to pick again, I'm going to redo this. I'm going to say Seton Hall and Creighton. Those are the two places where, for us in the past, like, those places have been like really, really hard places to get wins.
That's interesting. I didn't think you were going to go there with that. I thought we were for sure going to get like Dunkin' Donuts Center and then, Gamble or XL. But no, it's a good answer. I was at the Seton Hall game, and man, those guys are nasty. always a tough game with them. You know it's going to be you're going to scrap a claw when you play against Seton Hall. So, question for you, another thing being a Philly guy here. I know it's tough because the Phillies just went out in a really bad way to Kyle's Mets. But would you rather throw out the first pitch for the Phils, ring the bell at the Sixers, do a coin toss at the Eagles, maybe do a puck drop with the Flyers? Kyle works for the Union, so I got to ask you if you want to bang the drum at a Union game as well.
You,
But
you can't leave
what?
us out.
Yeah, of course not. Of course not. It's 5 for 5 at this point
There you
with the
go.
Union. So, what pregame like festivities of the pro sports in Philly would you want to be a part of the most?
I would like the coin flip at the Eagles, man. Be like to be on that, to be on the field at Lincoln Financial Field for an Eagles game. I think for me personally, like that would be it for me. Coin flip at the Eagles game for
Good
sure.
answer.
That's a
Good
good
answer.
answer. All right, Coach, we got one more thing for you. It's another Philly related thing. We ask this to every single guest that comes on the show. You are no different. So, being a Philly guy, obviously you have coached at three of the Big Five schools. You were a ball boy, as we found out at Temple, so you're very, very involved in the city. Been all over the place. So, Coach, where do you get your cheesesteaks from?
Great question, man. Delisandro's. That's my go-to spot. Live in Plymouth Meeting, so it's easy for me to go take that ride right down Ridge Avenue.
Yeah.
Grab, call my order in because you don't want to get caught waiting in that line, right? Call my order in, be right there to pick it up and head home. Delisandro's is my spot.
All
Right.
right. All right. Good
That's a
answer. Good
popular
answer.
one. It's a popular
Yeah.
one amongst
Yeah.
the guests. So,
We've definitely had a few D'Alessandros. But that's all we got, Coach. Thank you so much for coming on. We very much appreciate you giving your time to us today, talking to us. We very much enjoyed the conversation. Um, and we're very much looking forward to Villanova basketball this year. Cope, any last words for Coach?
Coach, in the middle of the day, too. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak to you. Take some time out of your day. Good luck to you. We got 24 days till the season starts. Crazy that time's sneaking up on us like that. But thank you for everything, and we look forward to being a Finner and Pavilion for a couple of games this year.
Awesome, man. I appreciate you guys having me.
Absolutely.
Take care,
Thank you so
Coach.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.